This is Countdown to Economic Collapse, March 25th, 2012. I'm David John Sponheim, running for president under America's Third Party. You know that you're being watched? Everything you do on the internet is being watched. It's the most invasive thing our government could be doing, but they're doing it. They're acting through organizations like Google and Facebook, and they've even built large facilities in the middle of nowhere.
As if it couldn't get worse, this is from Wired magazine, Wired.com. The threat level is increasing. The NSA is building the country's biggest spy center. Watch what you say. This center is in the middle of Utah, and it is costing $2 billion in taxpayer money. It is going to have 1 million square feet, and it will cost $40 million to actually cool down with all the data transfers going on through there. This is what they're doing. They're watching you closely, and they're using your tax dollars to do it. Is this what you call freedom in America?
The problem with that is it's too much. We need our nation to watch activities involving terrorism. We need our nation to watch activities involving the exchange of foreign currencies and the passage of money to agencies outside of our nation so that we know that money isn't being sent to terrorists. We also need to use the government to make sure that internet crimes like fraud, spoofing, phishing, things like that are not done by unscrupulous criminals around the world on people here who are unwittingly giving their money to people like that. Those are the kind of things the NSA could do. I want to downsize the government and get a zero deficit by 2013. I want our country to get out of the foreign wars it's involved in. I want to bring our troops home to guard the border with Mexico. And I want our nation to start developing brand new green, clean technologies that will help our nation build huge jobs for people. Yes, the government is responsible for creating jobs. We can't wait around for Barack Obama to do it. He's not doing it fast enough. We need a brand new direction, and it has to happen soon. Otherwise, our country will flounder and will continue to drop in its overall value in the world market. Our nation has slipped a huge amount. It's gone from 34% of the world's GDP to 26% in 10 years, from 2000 to 2010. The only other nation that lost that much in the world GDP was the Soviet Union. You do the math. Realize that our nation is declining, and you've got to stop it. As a voter, I recommend you stand up and vote third party in this upcoming election. And no matter what your choices are on the left or the right, we don't need a dividing president, we need a uniting one. One that'll reach across the aisle to both the left and the right and join hands, find compromises, and get a fiscally sound budget on track for 2013. Now recently, the government announced that they're going to keep our personal records for 5 years as opposed to 180 days. And this is a ruling that went down. The American people weren't informed. They're just doing this on the side with Barack Obama as your president, and they're getting away with it. All of these bills are being signed. Everything's going along just fine as long as the American people are kept out of the knowledge stream. And that, in and of itself, is the problem. Our nation was predicated on freedom of speech. It gives you the ability to speak freely and to talk to your friends on the internet, to chat, to not be monitored. And that is being underwritten and underscored by surveillance activities by the government. We believe at America's Third Party that we're doing nothing wrong. We want to help change the government from within using the process that was laid down by our forefathers in the Constitution. And following election law, we are doing just that. But people on YouTube are having their YouTube accounts getting squelched by YouTube. And I believe that the government has infiltrated Google and YouTube and, of course, Facebook. And I believe you need to know more about that.
Here's something that is shocking yet predictable. Remember last week we were talking about how our government is involved in purchasing Google stocks and being a big contributor to Google's growth and Facebook as well? Well, we are actually seeing the director of DARPA leaving the Pentagon group to join Google. DARPA Director Regina Dugan is leaving to join Google, and it shows there may be conflicts of interest in some of the work that she's contracted out. Her organization called Red X Defense, which she's a major stockholder in, has been receiving countless contracts with the government, and she still partially owns this company that she co-founded. This raises questions of conflict of interest. Now, there's other issues that are equally disturbing. The government has been working with Google since 2007 when Barack Obama addressed it. And these links are very, very interesting. Apparently, Google has a federally focused sales force marketing its search appliances and apps to the government. They've sold millions of dollars worth of gear to the NSA, secretive eavesdroppers, and to the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency's satellite watchmen. Now, that's disturbing, the watching and eavesdropping on the American people. But what's more disturbing is certain software that they've purchased, like Keyhole. The mapping firm Keyhole was backed by In-Q-Tel, the investment arm of the CIA, and Google bought Keyhole in 2004 and created Google Earth. But it's also, around the same time, the investment arms of Google and the CIA both put cash into Recorded Future, a company that monitors social media in real time and tries to use that information to predict upcoming events. Sound a little like Big Brother? Yeah. Okay, more examples of how Google is using YouTube and working with the government to censor various people. Now, this is about a guy named John Corbett who went viral with his videos talking about the TSA scanning devices that they use at the airport. And he's claiming that the YouTube censored his videos. Now, he's taking it all the way to the Supreme Court, and they're going to be talking about that coming up. But that's not the only example. Another example is Mike Adams of Natural News produced a cartoon video in February that emphasized the invasiveness of the TSA pat-downs, particularly on children, and made the point that it's merely a show of power and potentially a form of retribution against those who opt out of the body scanners. And the video was restricted by YouTube within hours. He later wrote that this age restriction censorship of my TSA help wanted animation is a clear example of oppression against artistic expression. And he goes on to talk about how this is very much like the corruption in communist China, the blackouts that regularly occur in communist China. Something to be concerned about, how the government is using YouTube to alter freedom of expression.
We have to ask ourselves, how much invasion of our privacy is necessary to maintain the security of our country? Well, a person has done just that with the TSA. And they have found that the TSA's rapid scan devices are ineffective, that they're being used in a way that hasn't really been effective from the very beginning. Now remember, these rapid scan devices cost $24 billion over the lifetime of this process. We are not solving America's terrorist crisis. We are actually creating a slowdown in our airports, and we purchased machines that should have never have been purchased, and we've got TSA agents that shouldn't be groping people. So our nation needs a big switch there. And I'm going to end the TSA as we know it. I'm going to bring back the metal detectors to the airports. Why they were taken away, I have no idea. And we're also going to task the rapid scan devices to study luggage, which is not being checked at the airports to a great degree right now. So these are the changes that I'm going to be bringing under my administration, and I will be also embracing the concept of freedom of the internet, net neutrality, and the ability of all of us to do file sharing as long as we don't breach the first copyright considerations of any printed or written word. I'm David John Sponheim, and I support this message.
ATP, you and me.